The moment I slammed the door behind me, I knew Karen wouldn't give up easily. Her footfalls on the porch were hurried, angry. I didn't bother to answer her questions or explain. I had the documents, the proof, and I wasn't about to let her intimidate me into giving up what was mine. She stood there, fist clenched, glaring at the cabin like she wanted to burn it down herself. I could see it in her eyes. She was already planning her next move, furious that her bluff had been called. But I had something she didn't, the truth on my side, and a stubborn will to keep my family's land. I turned and walked straight to the dock. It was a simple structure, but the power of it wasn't in its size. It was in what it represented. My grandfather built it with his own hands. It was part of my family's history, and now, thanks to the HOA, it was being stolen from me. I looked down at the water, calm and dark, knowing this was only the beginning. Karen's threats, her lawyers, her HOA rules, they were all just noise. I knew the law, I had the evidence, and I was ready. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught my eye. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her, Karen, sneaking around the back of the cabin, trying to peek behind the trees. I didn't need her to tell me she was scheming. Whatever her next move was, I had to be prepared. It wasn't just her anymore. Something about this land, the lake, the old dock, it stirred memories I'd only heard in stories, rumors that the land held secrets, that the water wasn't just water. I'd seen strange shapes in the depths before, shadows shifting beneath the surface. I'd heard whispers from neighbors long gone, stories about something buried deep beneath the lake's surface, something old and powerful. I crouched low, watching as Karen slipped out of sight. Her shadow disappeared behind the trees, but I knew she wasn't finished. I could feel the weight of the land around me like it was alive, watching, waiting. Suddenly a cold gust swept over the water, and the surface rippled unnaturally. I froze, sensing that whatever I'd been told about this place, about its history, was true. The land wasn't just land. It was a vault, a gateway, holding centuries of secrets that no HOA regulation could erase. The next day, I returned to the courthouse. I had files, deeds, maps. The history of this land was mine. But I needed more. I needed to understand what lay beneath the lake's murky depths. I remembered a story my grandfather told about the old logging days, when men spoke of strange lights and sounds coming from the water after sunset. I grabbed my boat and headed out early before anyone could notice. The lake was eerily quiet. I cast off, paddling toward the center where the water was deepest. As I approached, I saw it. Something. Just a flicker, a shadow beneath the surface. I reached with my paddle, trying to feel what it was. Then, I saw it clearly, an outline, like the ruins of a stone structure. I stared, heart pounding. Was it just my mind playing tricks? Or was this the secret the land had kept hidden all along? A sudden splash startled me. I whipped around, nothing but ripples and the water settling again. But I knew I wasn't imagining things. Something was down there, watching, waiting, and I had to find out what. Back on the shore, I saw Karen's car parked near the trees. She'd been watching me all along. I could tell by the way she kept her distance, her eyes flickering with suspicion and fear. She thought her legal threats would scare me off, but she had no idea. This land, this water, it was more than just property. It was part of something older, something that refused to be silenced. The next day, I decided to dig deeper. I remembered an old map, tucked away in my grandfather's attic. It showed a network of underground tunnels, old foundations, and strange markings, things that didn't make sense for a simple lakeside cabin. I traced the lines on the map, realizing they led straight beneath the lake. I was onto something. Something no HOA, no lawyer, no threat could take away. I had to get to the bottom of it. I called an expert, someone who knew about underground structures, about secrets buried in land and water. As I waited for him to arrive, I kept watch. Karen had returned, this time with a camera, recording everything I did. She was desperate, trying to catch me doing something wrong, but I knew her game. I knew she was afraid because she sensed I was close to uncovering what she wanted hidden. When the expert arrived, he examined the shoreline, the dock, the water. His eyes widened as he looked at the old map I handed him. "This land isn't just land," he whispered. "There are tunnels, something man-made and something not quite natural." That night I heard strange noises, low hums, distant thumps coming from beneath the water. I wasn't imagining it. The land was alive and it was trying to tell me something. And Karen, standing on the shore, her face pale, knew she was losing control. Her power was built on lies and assumptions. But the truth, the real truth, was waiting to surface. They all thought they could take my land, erase the history, silence the secrets. But I was about to show them. This land was more than just property. It was a gateway, a protector of something ancient, and I was the only one who could unlock it. This wasn't just a fight over a cabin or a dock. It was a battle for what lies beneath, for what's been buried for generations. And I wasn't backing down, certainly. Here's a continuation that dives straight into the action, starting from the ending of the previous chapter, packed with suspense, powerful dialogues, twists, and simple language. Karen's shadow disappeared behind the trees, but I knew she wasn't done. Her eyes darted, planning her next move. I crouched low, listening to the silence that followed her retreat. Something wasn't right. Something about this land, this water, felt alive, watching, waiting. I could feel it in my bones. Suddenly, a cold gust swept over the lake, rippling the surface unnaturally. I froze. The water shimmered, and beneath it I saw it, an outline like the ruins of something ancient. My heart hammered. Was it just my mind playing tricks? Or was this the secret the land had been hiding all along? Before I could process, a splash erupted behind me, loud, sudden. I spun around, my pulse racing. Nothing but ripples in the quiet water. But I knew I wasn't imagining things. Something had just moved beneath the surface, watching me. I stared at the water, trying to stay calm. Whatever it wasn't natural. It wasn't just fish or debris. It was something old, something buried deep, and it was stirring. The lake wasn't just a body of water. It was a vault, a gateway, holding centuries of secrets. I looked back toward the shoreline. Karen's car was still parked there, her figure hidden behind the trees. She had been watching me all along. That much was clear. She thought her threats and lawyers could scare me away, but she had no idea. This land wasn't just land. It had stories buried beneath, stories no one dared to tell. I stepped closer to the water's edge, eyes fixed on that strange outline. Then I saw it again. An unmistakable shape, something massive, resting just below the surface. It shimmered, then vanished. I reached out with trembling hands, trying to feel it with my fingertips. The water was cold, unnaturally so. "Who are you?" I whispered into the quiet. My voice sounded small against the vast, dark water. Suddenly, a deep rumble vibrated through the ground beneath my feet. I staggered back, heart pounding. The lake responded as if it had awakened. The outline reappeared, more clearly this time, like a broken wall of stone and shadow. That's when I remembered stories my grandfather used to tell, tales of strange lights, of whispers coming from the lake at night. I dismissed them as old legends, until now. Now I could feel it, the truth hiding just beneath the surface, waiting for me to find it. A shadow moved again, this time closer, more defined. It was no fish or debris. It was something larger, something ancient. My mind raced. What had they built here? What was buried beneath the water that was so dangerous it had to be hidden? I looked at the shoreline where Karen's figure was still hidden behind the trees. She was probably watching, recording, trying to catch me doing something wrong. But I knew her game. She was afraid because she sensed I was getting close to the real secret. Without warning, the water erupted again, this time with a roar that echoed in my ears. A massive shape broke the surface, dark and jagged, like the remnants of a forgotten ruin. My breath caught. I knew then. I wasn't just fighting over a property line anymore. I was standing on the edge of something much bigger. And Karen. She was about to realize she'd pushed too far, because whatever was down there, whatever the land had kept hidden for generations, was waking up. And it wasn't going to let her or anyone else take it away without a fight. I took a step closer, staring into the abyss. This was no longer about the HOA, or the dock, or the land. It was about secrets buried deep in the water, secrets that refused to stay hidden. And I was the only one who knew how to find them. The lake trembled again, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Whatever lay beneath wasn't just water. It was something alive, something ancient, and now it was stirring to be free. I clenched, my fists ready for whatever came next, because I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And I was about to uncover the truth no matter what it cost me. Certainly. Here's a powerful, suspenseful, and unforgettable ending that dives straight into the action from where you left off, with twists and a mind-blowing conclusion, written in simple yet impactful language. The lake roared again, and I barely had time to react. The massive shape beneath the water broke the surface, twisting and crashing like the remnants of a forgotten beast rising from the depths. My heart pounded so loud I thought it might explode. Karen's figure appeared behind the trees, eyes wide with fear or maybe something darker. She knew this wasn't just some land dispute anymore. I stood frozen, staring at the chaos unfolding in front of me. The water churned, and from nowhere, a thick black tendril shot upward, twisting like a serpent. It struck the air with a deafening crack, something ancient and alive, something that had been buried for centuries, awakened by the disturbance. Then, it happened. The water split open. Not just surface ripples, but a true rupture, like the earth itself was tearing apart. From the depths, a creature emerged. Not a fish, not a monster from some myth, but a towering, shadowy figure, half submerged, half towering over the water, with glowing eyes that pierced through the darkness. It was a guardian, a relic. Whatever had been hidden beneath that lake was no ordinary secret. It was something alive, something powerful, and it had just been roused from its slumber. Karen's scream echoed through the trees. She tried to run, but her legs buckled as the creature's gaze locked onto her. I could see her face, pale, trembling, realizing she'd unleashed something beyond her understanding. I wanted to run too, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. This was the truth my grandfather warned me about. Something ancient, something that had guarded this land for centuries, and now, it was finally waking up. The creature's massive form moved with slow, deliberate purpose, heading straight toward the shoreline. Its presence radiated raw energy like a storm bottled in water. Then it looked at me, those glowing eyes, cold, ancient, and full of stories I could never fully understand, stared right into mine. I felt a shiver that ran straight to my core. It wasn't just a guardian, it was a warning that some secrets are meant to stay buried, some forces too dangerous to disturb. Karen screamed again, trying to plead or maybe bargain, but it was useless. The creature didn't hesitate. It opened a massive maw, dark and cavernous, and let out a sound that was more than a cry, more than a roar. It was a message, a warning, a curse. I knew I had to act fast. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the old relic I'd found in my grandfather's attic, an ancient stone pendant carved with strange symbols. I'd always thought it was just a family heirloom, but now I understood. It was the key. As the creature lunged forward, I held the pendant high. Light burst from the symbols, illuminating the water around us with a strange blue glow. The creature hesitated, as if recognizing the artifact. A tremor shook the ground, and the water stilled for a moment, as if the lake itself was holding its breath. Then, a voice, deep, echoing, and ancient, boomed through the air. Not a voice of a person, but a voice of the land itself speaking through the creature. It said, "You've awakened what was meant to sleep. You cannot control what was never yours to command." Karen tried to scream, but her voice was lost in the noise. The creature's glowing eyes flickered, and it began to retreat, sinking back into the depths as if it had been summoned but now wanted to hide away again. The water calmed and silence fell like a heavy shroud. I lowered the pendant, trembling. The lake was quiet once more, but I knew I hadn't seen the end of it. This land, this water, had secrets buried so deep that no one should ever wake them. Looked at Karen, her face etched with fear and regret. She'd thought she could own this land, build on it, cheat the past. But she had only awakened something far older, far more powerful, and now, she was paying the price. And me? I understood. This wasn't just about property lines or HOA rules. It was about respecting the ancient forces that guarded this place, about knowing when to leave things untouched. As I turned away, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying a final message. Some secrets are better left buried. Some forces once disturbed refuse to rest, and some boundaries once crossed can never be undone. I walked back to the cabin, my mind racing with the enormity of what I'd just witnessed. The land had spoken, and I knew I would never forget. This was the day I learned that some mysteries aren't meant to be uncovered, and the true power lies in knowing when to walk away. Because the lake had shown me, some secrets are alive, and they will always wait. Always.